Welcome back to another episode of Pass and Move podcast, bringing you talk about Premier League and European football. My name is Dominic, and I'm joined by my co-host Aaron. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, man. Ready to get into it.
Mm.
To start the show, obviously, we're recording this live. England are playing right now against Greece, and we wanted to discuss the lineup of it because it's quite interesting. We've got Jude Bellingham starting in the false nine with the absence of Harry Kane, and we've got obviously Gordon, Saka on the wings, Foden and Palmer in the eights, and Declan Rice kind of sitting. And yeah, just kind of wanted to talk a bit about the dynamics. What do you think about kind of this new approach, and do you think it's something that we could see more from England going forward?
I think it's progress at first, isn't it? Like it's something I've wanted to see, which is just something new in general. And I think, to be honest, that's all you can really ask for at this stage. Obviously, I don't know, has Carsley been given the permanent job, or is he still interim?
I think he's still interim for now. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't know exactly like what's going to happen with the manager situation, whether they'll hire someone new. But this is something I've wanted to see. It's just something new and refreshing. And obviously, I'm not sure if it would still be the lineup we'd see if Kane was here fit today. But without him, it's good to see something new and at least see some experimenting or some sort of willingness to attack, which is something I've wanted for a while.
Yeah, no, I think it's something that England have had the capability to do for a while with kind of the more technical attacking midfielders that have come through the ranks in the recent years. But I did want to talk to you a bit about some of the roles of the players. Obviously, Bellingham has been given the license to play in the false nine. I think a lot of people maybe would have expected Phil Foden to be in that role instead, considering he out of the attacking options on the field, he's the only one that's played there at club level, doing so for a season or a season and a half at sea, and it went quite well. So yeah, what would you kind of make of that? Would you have preferred to see Foden in that role?
I don't know. I think as a big Foden fan and City fan, I feel like Foden false nine is something that it's like it suits. I think it suits the team, especially for what you need from your false nine. You need someone to give overloads on either side, drop into the pockets, receive. If you need pace, if you need technical security, whatever you need, I feel like Foden can give it to you there in false nine. But me personally, I think I wanted to see him in more of like a number 8 role, where he can really come deeper and dictate play a bit more, which is something I think I would have wanted to see him, but off like the opening 15 minutes, I don't think he's playing in that position. He's more of the more advanced one, with Palmer a little bit behind him. I would probably like to see that the other way around. Something more like what you would have seen from Foden in his younger days and his academy days.
Fair enough. I mean, I think it's an interesting balance because I think, obviously, for me, I'd say Palmer's probably more of the playmaker out of the two. Foden's obviously he's quality in the tight spaces, but like his ball striking is what kind of sets him apart from Palmer, and that's something that you kind of want to get in those more advanced areas. So I can kind of see the logic behind that. I don't know. For me personally, I feel like for the balance of the team, though, I know as you said, Foden in false nine suits the balance of the team. But at the end of the day, we are playing. It's a team sport, so I feel like Foden in the false nine probably makes more sense, and then you can drop Bellingham into the 8 more to give Rice a bit more protection. Because I think, I don't know, it might be a bit too aggressive with Foden and Palmer both playing as 8s. And I don't know, it could be a concern for Declan Rice maybe being left alone on the island at times, hitting a transition in certain moments. But I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll keep tabs on the England game while we're live. See kind of if anything updates, anything changes as we're going. But we're heading to the Premier League games for now. The biggest game of the weekend, Brighton versus Spurs, and it was really a game of two halves. This one, it was an interesting one for Spurs and probably a bit familiar for Spurs fans on the Ange so far. I mean, the first half was great from Spurs. They were in total control. Brennan Johnson scored the first goal to make it 6-6 for him. The first Spurs player to do that since Kane.
Wow.
And yeah, so I mean he's put his name up there. But I don't know. Spurs look good in the opening first half. Solanke was playing really well. Maddison, Kulusevski, they're all moving the ball nicely. And then the second half, they just kind of collapsed within like a 15-minute period. It was crazy to see, but it's not really anything new under Ange. Brighton really got a foothold in the game, and Yeah, Spurs didn't really react. Ange didn't really react until it was too late. Really, they were already 3-2 down by the time he introduced those changes. And yeah, what did you make of Spurs' performance in this game and Brighton's comeback as well?
I only really caught the first half, but I thought Tottenham were really. I was kind of impressed early on, like straight off the bat. I think like the first 20 seconds, Werner gets the ball on the wing and he's got like a nice opportunity to play across for I think Brennan Johnson at the back post. He just overhits it a bit, but from the start it was already like like they came to play. I can't lie, Brennan Johnson especially I've been quite impressed by him as well because when he first signed, I was thinking, bro, 50 mil for this guy. Like, what are we doing? Like, this is not a top footballer. This is not like this is a championship level player. But I can't lie, especially since he got a lot of hate recently, and obviously I don't like to see players get hate in it. You know, it's a bit like it's not something you want to see. But ever since that, like, he's deleted social media, and he's really sort of like locked in. Like he's not accepting anything anymore. Now he's really like. You can see it in his performances, like he's playing a lot better. He's scoring goals now. Like it's crazy what you're seeing so far from him, and I feel like it's very impressive. But in general, I feel like Tottenham. I'm not too sure why they lost, obviously, because I didn't catch the whole of the second half. But to me, it feels like they'll be fine. You know, I think there's always these sorts of these bumps in the road. One that I really like to think back on is Arsenal. It would have been 21-22 season when they came fifth and they were battling with Tottenham for the fourth place spot, right?
Yeah.
And I think Arsenal, they just collapsed. I think there was a game against Newcastle at St James's Park and they just couldn't handle it. Like it was the pressure was really on then, and that's when I thought there was just the team as a whole, and then also especially on the manager. I feel like there's a lot of instances where Arteta could have shown better management in terms of his selection, like before the game, his in-game management, as in like his changes in the game, and then just in general the way that he handled everything. I felt like there wasn't, it didn't really feel like it was what you'd expect from a top manager, or from, when I say top manager, obviously I don't mean Premier League, I mean like the best of the best.
Elite level, yeah.
Yeah, the elite managers. And I remember I was thinking, this is something that happens though, because Arteta's young. That was like his, maybe second or third season for Arsenal.
Second full season, yeah.
Yeah, so like this is something that, to me, it was always like, this is a sign he's not there yet, but he will be there if you give him time. And now you see Arteta, this guy's just challenged for the title 2 seasons in a row and narrowly missed out both times by a few points. And again, probably will challenge again this season. Do you know what I mean? Now you can see he's clearly one of the best. But that sort of thing it's a process. I don't like to always go back and refer to other teams when you talk about managers and stuff, because it's different scenarios for different teams and stuff. But I do feel like with Ange, I get that feeling of that, like, he's gonna, especially the way he likes to stick to his principles and stuff, he's gonna lose games and he's gonna make loads of mistakes, but over time, if you give it time, 3-4 years down the line, Tottenham will probably be better off for it, and these sorts of losses will be things that just help them grow, in my opinion.
Do you think he's really gonna make those changes though? Because I mean, he speaks a lot about like the plan A and the fact that there's no plan B. Plan B is just to do plan A better, which I mean, it's commendable, I guess. We're seeing it a lot with managers nowadays, kind of sticking to their principles, and this is the way we're going to play, regardless of what happens. You could say the same for Brighton's manager Hertzler. Obviously, the Chelsea game a couple of weeks ago, where they lost 4-2 and they were playing that crazy high line, but he stuck to it the whole time. But I don't know. I feel like there is something to be said about evolution as a manager. Like even the likes of Pep Guardiola have evolved during their time. Do you know what I mean? Like when he was at Bayern, he inverted the fullbacks initially to prevent against counter-attacking scenarios. And I feel like for Ange, I don't know, I kind of get a bit of the Spurs fans' frustrations because some of their problems are so obvious and they keep recurring, and they're conceding over and over again from the same ways, like set pieces, for example. And it's almost like, I don't know, almost seems like Ange doesn't want to fix it because it's like, no, if we just do plan A better, then we're going to win the game regardless. I don't know, what have been your thoughts on Ange, so far in his, season and a bit in the Premier League?
I think he will evolve regardless. I think it's something that happens to everyone. No matter how much managers think they want to do this or that, they'll be forced to evolve. And You know, if he doesn't, ultimately, like the team will just end up finishing like 10th, and he will lose his job. But I feel like he will evolve definitely. Like even as you mentioned, Guardiola. If you look at the way that Guardiola used to play before the loss at the Bernabeu and after that, it's like completely different Man City teams.
Yeah.
It's so different now. Like since we lost that game, and it's you know, obviously I one thing I do like is the way that he comments about like sticking to his principles and stuff like that. Obviously, as a Spurs fan, when you're losing games, he's talking about not changing things. It can be frustrating, but to me, that's all sort of like it's sort of about instilling a culture and sort of changing the culture around the club, and sort of a thing about, you know, like almost like setting in that mindset amongst the players in the club that this is how we play and this is what we're gonna do, and
This is our identity type thing.
Yeah, and that's something obviously you've seen with like Ten Hag. It's the complete opposite. It's like there's nothing. But then with Ange, maybe sometimes it's a bit too much. I feel like eventually, like he's going to end up figuring out like, okay, maybe this is a bit too much. Even though he says in a press conference, we're not changing, we're sticking to plan A, whatever. He will eventually have to make tweaks, like whether he likes it or not, and he will eventually over time do it. It just, for me, it depends on how long I tweeted about this earlier in the week. I said it depends on how long it's going to take for him to sort of recognize those changes that he needs to make. How long it's going to take for him in terms of will he stay at the club, or will another club come in from him, will he leave? And also, will the club have the patience to sit with him if they don't like the amount of progress that's being made? And will the players also have that patience to stick with him as well if they don't like the amount of progress that's being made? Because where did they finish last season? Was it like 6th or something?
Yeah, 6th.
Something like that. If they finish 6th again this season with the investment that they've had, like will Levy and those guys still be like, you know, buying in? And let's say they finish 6th, for example, and then start of next season they get injuries and start of the season's rough for them, then, you know, it's sort of, you know, on a larger scale it doesn't look as good, even though maybe he's making progress in terms of how they're playing, or him himself as a manager. You know, it's not going to always translate. So I think ultimately we're just going to have to wait and see. But personally, I think it will. I think he'll sort out. Like it will work out, in my opinion.
No, fair enough. I mean, one thing about the kind of way they've been playing is that, like, obviously they have this plan A, and as an opposition manager coming into the game, you know they're going to stick to the way they're playing. They're not going to change it. So if something is a problem for you in the game, you have the time during the game to kind of figure out what that is, and then fix it, and then exploit their weakness at the same time. And you know they're not going to change how they're doing. I think that's what Brighton did really well in the game against Spurs. I mean, they did well to kind of isolate Matoma against Porro, and I think that was one of Matoma's best games in a while, to be honest. You know, he created a couple good chances, got an assist. Should have had another one in the first half, to be honest, for Welbeck. But yeah, what have you made of Brighton this season? Because I think they're sitting in 6th right now. But I think that was their first win since they beat us
United,
at home. Yeah, so I don't know. It's been kind of up and down, but they're doing all right now. They've had a couple alarming results, like the one to Chelsea, of course. But yeah, what have you made of kind of Brighton and Hertzler so far?
For me, I always like to see young coaches come in. It's inspiring. I like to see these young coaches with their hipster mindsets, or whatever people can call them. But no, I've actually been really impressed. I feel like it's going to take a bit longer. Also, kind of similar to the way we spoke about Ange, in terms of like the way that he plays, and he might need to make changes. I feel like Hertzler will come under the same thing. You know, I think he's running a Duncan Webster at the back.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes it's just things that they can't do.
They need Van Heck back. Yeah.
Honestly, like there's something sometimes with your players you just have limitations. You see it with Russell Martin at Southampton as well. Like there's just certain things that you can't execute to the level you want to with the players you have, and the only way to get out of that is recruitment. And obviously, it's not easy to just go out and buy players. You know, it's in the middle of the season especially. So you know, there's not often a lot you can do, but it's a growth thing, innit? I feel like over time, you know, the better their recruitment gets in terms of Brighton. They've already had brilliant recruitment this season. They've got like a million different attacking wingers and playmakers in the middle of the pitch who are just like great. They've got so many new forwards now as well. Like their recruitment's been great in my opinion. But over time, it's just going to be a thing of, you know, what are they going to do in terms of the Dunk Webster situation and other players who maybe they might move past in terms of how good they want to do, or how high their targets are and the level of the players. It depends on, you know, how they're going to manage that and what they're going to do. Are they going to carry on playing their way, which I assume they probably will, with these players that are probably below the level they need, or are they going to change it and compromise and try and win in other ways? That's going to ultimately be what happens. But I think, you know, it's a time thing. Like, over time, it's going to be a long-term project for them, and I feel like they should be fine. This season, though, particularly, I've been really impressed with them so far. I feel like, obviously, United sometimes, you know, it's still, as much as people want to say, oh, United's rubbish, whatever, like, it's still a tough game.
We are rubbish.
No, for sure. But it's still, you know, they still have players that, you know, if you're not serious, they will punish you. Like, Bruno will punish you. Rashford these players will punish you, like, for sure. So, you know, I still do commend them, even though they've struggled a bit recently in terms of wins. Like, it's still something I'm impressed with.
Yeah, let's move on to United then. Obviously played against Villa at Villa Park. 0-0 draw. Not gonna lie, not the most eventful game. I mean, I think the biggest chance for both sides was probably Bruno hitting the crossbar from a free kick. Rashford had 2 attempts, kind of cutting his side. Both shots were saved well by Emi Martinez. But I don't know, it wasn't the most eventful game. I think for Villa, they were definitely feeling kind of the hangover from the Champions League, and that's kind of something that people have brought up in terms of putting them in the conversation for the top 4 race. You know, how are they going to deal with being back in Europe, back in the Champions League, playing against some of the best sides week in, week out. And I think, they were definitely feeling that hangover a bit. But I think, to be honest, it speaks more to how poor United were, the fact that this was a subpar Villa performance, and I mean, we couldn't really capitalise on any of our opportunities. Ten Hag set up definitely to be a lot more compact defensively. I don't know, it was kind of giving me the vibes of, boys, we can't lose this game because my job's on the line here. And you know, obviously they didn't lose. He went to Maguire and Evans at the back after bringing them on against Porto in midweek last week, after Lissandro and De Ligt's disaster class. And yeah, to be honest, I mean, they were solid, which, I mean, I don't know, I think that probably says more about Lissandro and De Ligt where they are right now than those two. But I mean, we have to commend Maguire and Evans. You know, Evans especially to be doing what he's doing at this age. I mean, when he signed for Man United, I know, like, signed again for Man United, I know he definitely wasn't envisioning himself to be playing this much. But I mean, it's nice to have someone that can come in and put in performances when we need them. And yeah, he got man of the match for that game.
Yep.
But I think Berto probably summed it up best on Sky Sports, where he was like, I mean, look, Johnny Evans, 36 years old, like, it was a great performance, but for him to be getting man of the match in a game like this, 0-0, like, the rest of the players got to be ashamed of themselves.
For sure.
You know, there just wasn't really much going forward. There wasn't, I don't know, the plan was clearly to kind of sit back in the block and then soak up pressure and hit on the counter attack, but couldn't really get things clicking in there. And yeah, no, it was a bit of a dire game, to be honest, overall. Obviously now we're into international break. There's a lot of talk about kind of Ten Hag staying or going. Ineos had their meeting on Tuesday or whatever, where they were, well, we don't know the exact things that they were discussing, but it was reported that they were going to be discussing Ten Hag's future. As of right now, as a recording, he's still in the job, which yeah, I mean, it's an interesting decision. I think from Ineos's point of view, I mean, last season it was out in the open that they were looking around for managers, that they were looking for other people to kind of come in and take the job. They couldn't find anyone ultimately, and they gave Ten Hag a second chance. And I don't know, I feel like it's a bit of poor planning from them. Obviously they're new owners, but I think this is a mistake that they're gonna learn off, because I think their thinking going into it was, okay, we're gonna come in and try and fix all the things kind of above the manager within the structure, getting the guys in place, like, you know, likes of Dan Ashworth, Jason Wilcox, trying to fix the structures within the club to give the manager the best chance of succeeding. And then hopefully as well, because we had a lot of injuries last season, as much as I don't really like to bring that up as an excuse, because I mean, we were still poor, it is the fact that we did have a lot of injuries last season. They were kind of hoping that, okay, this season we're not going to have as many injuries. Ten Hag should be able to do better and kind of perform better with the investment that we're giving him and the players being more fit, and we're going to take care of all the things kind of above him. But, I mean, I don't think they predicted it coming crashing down this early in the season. And, I don't know, it leaves us in a bit of an awkward position where, I don't know, for me, I still think it's probably best to move on from the manager. I don't know, I don't think the situation, I don't think he can really recover the situation as it stands. But, I don't know, from their perspective, I think it's a bit of an awkward one, because they've clearly kind of gone into the season hoping that Ten Hag can see them through for this period, and then, okay, we'll assess it towards the end of this season, at the end of the season, and see whether we can get a manager that we would prefer, or if we want to continue with Ten Hag. But I don't know, it's come crashing down early, and I don't know, for me it's a bit of poor planning, because if you watched us last season, this was something that is a decent chance of happening. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was probably a 65% chance of us starting the season poorly, even with all the things that they've done well, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on United, our situation from your point of view?
Mostly, I think I agree with you. To be fair, you know, I think they probably did think, especially off the win, the FA Cup win as well.
Yeah,
I think that definitely played a part. But I think they definitely did think, you know, like, you know, there shouldn't be really any excuses, so it should get better. But you know, obviously, as he's shown, it hasn't really got that much better. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that it's like your worst.
Oh yeah, worst start in Premier League era.
Yeah, which like that kind of sums it up. To be fair,
Ten Hag beat his own record that he set last season.
Was that last?
Yeah, so he got 9 points last season. That was our worst start in Premier League history.
Wow.
And then this season he's got 8, so he's beat his own record.
I thought they were gonna say like Moyes or something. Like,
nah, bro.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Moyes in the top 5 though, but he's not bottom 2.
Wow. Yeah, fair enough, man. Yeah. No word. That kind of says it all. To be fair, you know, this is those should be the standards. You know what I mean?
Literally. But yeah, I mean, let's move on from United, because I don't know, can't talk about these lot for too much longer. Let's go to the City game. Obviously 3-2 win at the Etihad against Fulham, but I mean, it was a bit of a tricky one for you guys. I don't know. Fulham took the lead in this game. Yeah, through a great goal, flick from Jimenez.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Quality and a decent finish from Andreas as well. But I don't know. I think City in this game I don't know. You guys just looked off the pace a little bit. Obviously Kovacic got the equaliser, got you guys back in the game. Then you kind of got more of a foothold in the game, went 2-1 up, 3-1 up. But I don't know. Fulham had chances, man. They had enough chances to definitely have the lead in that game. I think soon after taking the lead, Adama had a chance 1-on-1 that he missed. And I mean, Adama's always going to be a threat just because of his physical capabilities. Like, someone that fast and that strong is always going to be a problem for defenders, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
But I don't know. One thing about his game, you know, since he's come to league, we've all known, is that his finishing, his end product is a bit inconsistent. And yeah, I mean, I think some better finishing there, and he really punishes you guys. But I don't know. You guys get over the line in the end. Kovacic coming up with a brace, Doku with a goal as well off the bench. Yeah, what are kind of your thoughts on City as of now, and where do you kind of think that they need to improve going forward? Because I mean, it wasn't the best performance, and I mean, Fulham really could have got something more out of this game if they finished their chances.
I can't lie, you know, we started really well. Like, obviously me, I'm a big, very loud critic of Pep, you know, especially since the treble, post-treble. Like, before the treble, I was a much bigger fan of Pep, but post-treble, I've been very critical of him. And I feel like, you know, the start of the season, I was really like, wow, like, yo, we might be playing, this is football that I've wanted to see for a while. Like we're playing slick, fun football, like I'm enjoying this year. Chelsea game, loved the Chelsea game. Ipswich also, we conceded straight away, but I still enjoyed that game pretty much. You know, West Ham as well. West Ham's probably one of my favourite games. That was definitely up there. Love to see Grealish, love to see Savio. De Bruyne was playing as well. You know, it was fun. Haaland was scoring like all the time. It was really fun. And then I think it's Inter midweek, right? We play against Inter, and everything, even in the first half especially, think that's the first game Rodri starts since his injury in the Euros final, and since then, Rodri was terrible that game, but the midfield was also Bernardo and KDB and Savio Grealish wings, which is like a great lineup in my opinion. But Bernardo's horrible as well. KDB's horrible as well. No one's really good except Grealish. He's probably like a 7 out of 10 in this game.
Yeah.
And the first half is just really slow, right? And that's what it kind of felt like for me. Like, damn, yo, these guys are getting old. Like the midfield especially are. Like every time we lose the ball, I don't know if it's Barella or if it was I'm pretty sure it was Barella. It would be like Barella and I think Thuram and I think Taremi started as well.
Yeah.
They literally every transition was like a walk in the park for them. Like they get the ball and just breeze past our midfield, and they'd never really put it together at the end. But still, it was like concerning. Do you know what I mean? KDB came off. I think apparently he had an injury or something, and we haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
So he does have an injury. He's pulled out of the Belgium squad for this international break and the one in November. He said to the manager he doesn't want to play because he needs to get back to fitness. So we don't know when he's going to be back. But still, since then, I think that was on a Wednesday. The following Sunday was against Arsenal. And genuinely, since that game when KDB's gone, I don't think I've enjoyed any of our games really. Like the Arsenal game, obviously not much you can do with the situation we were given with it was a red card. Arsenal, the best defensive team in the league, sitting in their own box. Like it's going to be hard to break them down, obviously, innit?
Yeah.
And I've already voiced my frustrations at the team selection and the way we went about it and things like that. But I don't know, like from the start with the way we were playing to now, it's kind of like two complete opposites. Like it kind of does feel a lot like what it felt like last season. That's probably in part due to Rodri also getting injured, and our replacements obviously aren't at the same level. We have Gundogan and Kovacic who are the replacements, and it's just not Rodri. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it's kind of just like some of the same issues, like transitions. Transitions have been awful this past 2 seasons for us. Like anytime we lose the ball, it's just like there's nothing there. Even when Rodri was fit, it's like I don't know whether it's a structural thing or maybe it's just purely the personnel we have that don't really have that physicality about them anymore. Especially back in the day, in like the 21-22 season, Bernardo and Rodri were playing like as a pivot and KDB was playing like kind of as a 10. And it was a lot more like Bernardo would do all the running and all the hard yards, and he'd literally just like cover any like blade of grass you needed him to, and Rodri would do more of the dictating. But now it seems like Bernardo doesn't really have that about him anymore.
Yeah.
In terms of physicality, he seems a lot closer to Gundogan, who's also like probably like 34 now. And I don't know, it doesn't really feel like we have that sort of. The way I like to describe it is that in summer I said I want a player in our team, right? Either in our midfield or in our defense, that when you go into a duel with them, it needs to look like it will hurt to go into a duel with them. That's the type of player I want. Is like, for example, Rudiger is someone I think of all the time.
I want
like,
someone to bring the pain,
yeah,
that's crazy.
There needs to be someone that, if a striker, like a 6'1" striker goes into a duel with this player, they need to look at the player and think it's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
like,
I know what you mean.
Onana's like he was my number 1 target, a great example. Even Bruno Guimaraes, I think, is he's really got that grit about him. Like,
yeah,
I feel like a lot of our players don't really have that anymore, whether in the defense or in the midfield. I guess you could say probably a Kanji sometimes has that, but still, like, I want a bit more. Do you know what I mean? And it feels like we don't have that at all. Like, it feels like teams really set up against us. I think it was Brentford first 30 minutes. Yeah, I think like the first 25, 30 minutes against Brentford. We ended up winning that game off of 2 Haaland goals, created them practically out of nothing because it's Haaland, do you know what I mean? But I think in that game, they really got at us. Like, we were at home and they were like dominating the ball. Like, I remember seeing a tweet, someone was like, please tell Brentford to give us the ball back. They had like 75% possession at our ground. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Unheard of.
Yeah, like, it doesn't make, and that's kind of, I feel like these sorts of things have been a bit more frequent the last 2 years compared to all the other seasons. And I think that's a bit of a sign of, where we're kind of going as a club. And it doesn't mean we're necessarily like falling down. Like, it's not going to be like a crazy, rapid, like spiraling downfall. But
yeah, of course not.
It still does feel like there's some big issues. You know what I mean? I think next summer it's definitely gonna all come to the forefront because you got KDB still hasn't renewed his contract. Pep hasn't renewed his contract. they recently announced Chiki, our director, is leaving.
Yeah.
But apparently that's been planned for 5 years now. Apparently he's planned to leave.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, apparently he's been saying he wants to leave at 60 for a while. So that's something I just didn't know. Then there's also Gundogan, who has his contract expiring, but he has an option to renew it, I think, for 1 more year.
Okay.
Bernardo expires in summer of 2026, and he's been trying to leave for the last 3 years. There's a lot of different situations right now, and I feel like, I don't know, it's gonna definitely be something to think about going forward as to what sort of the new Man City looks like. Whether or not Pep's gonna stay or all these players are gonna stay, I don't think it really matters. I think regardless, this season going into next season is gonna be sort of a proper transition, and we're gonna see like a new era of Man City. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I think it will be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that you mentioned obviously the kind of physicality in the midfield and the dueling, because I mean, I think, what was it, last summer you guys signed Mateus Nunes. I think that was kind of an attempt to get one of those more physically imposing midfielders, someone that's good in the duel, someone that's strong, and can cover ground. I think obviously you signed Calvin Phillips as well, maybe that summer or the summer before. And it hasn't really worked out for either of them too much. Obviously Nunes is still there, we don't know what could happen. Maybe he'll come into the fold this season, but I mean, yeah, I think definitely, because in the game against Fulham, it just looked like in the duels in midfield, especially in the defensive transitions for you guys, as you mentioned, that you guys just kind of looked a bit weak, and it was a bit easy for Fulham to bypass you in those moments. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what solution Pep kind of cooks up for that, because I mean, he's always got something in the tank. I don't know. I feel like maybe a solution could be to bring one of the centre backs into midfield again. Someone like Kanji, who's got that physical presence. I know he's tried to bring him into the midfield before as kind of a Stones replacement when he was doing it and he was injured towards the back end of that season. Or maybe just bringing Stones back again, because I mean, he's someone that has he's more physically imposing than any of your fit midfielders at the moment. And I don't know, pairing him with maybe a Kovacic or a Gundogan could be the way forward potentially for you guys. I don't know. But let's move on to our final Premier League game we're going to be discussing this week. Arsenal versus Southampton at the Emirates. It turned out to be a pretty comfortable performance for Arsenal at the end. I mean, Southampton did have them for a bit. They took the lead, Cameron Archer with a nice finish. But I mean, Arsenal hit back straight away through Kai Havertz. I wanted to talk about Kai Havertz a little bit actually, before we kind of get on to the main man of this game. But what have you thought about Kai Havertz? Because I remember when he signed last season, we were kind of, I don't know, both you and I were kind of not too sure about the signing, where he was going to fit in Arteta's plans. And I know at the beginning of last season he was kind of played more as an 8, and then it wasn't really until the beginning of this year, 2024, that he was more as a out and out striker. And he's been picking up goals and assists. He's got one of the best GA ratios in the Premier League in 2024. Yep. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on Kai Havertz right now, the play his, because I mean, I don't know, I don't think any of us foreseen him kind of becoming this important for Arsenal as of right now.
I was crazy critical of him when he first joined. I think when he joined Arsenal originally, it's very different to what it is now. I feel like back then he was sort of playing like this midfield role. He didn't really look like there was anything about him. There wasn't really you would watch him and you think you can't really directly see maybe his standout traits, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like now if you watch him, especially playing striker, there's a lot more there. It's partly it's to do with the system and the way that they've changed in terms of how they play, but then also him, I feel like he sort of gained a lot more confidence, and he sort of developed a bit as well under Arteta, and he's sort of you can really see what not necessarily what Arteta wanted from Havertz, but you can really see why the stats are representing what they're representing. If you look at the goals and assists and things like that per game, I think he's up there with Haaland and Cole Palmer and things like that for those sorts of things. And you watch the games and you can see it now, I feel like. But yeah, for me, I think definitely in the conversation for one of the most improved players in the Premier League this past 12 months. I think when it comes to Kai Havertz, there's a lot of things to sort of. I don't want to say there's a lot of things to account for, but there's a lot of things with Kai Havertz where it's like, 65 million price tag. They were linked with, I think, Benjamin Šeško at the time.
Yeah.
Could they have gone for him? Like, there's a lot of different things. There's like, could he score more goals? Now he's scoring a lot more goals. You see what I mean? There's things like, he doesn't have enough intent. He's not. He doesn't have enough intent. He's not enough. He doesn't have that sort of pace about him. He's not. All these things, all these questions they have to add with him. I feel like he's sort of not. I don't want to say silence the haters, but it's like
kind of has though.
Yeah, like all these things that you think with him, it's like he's all sort of shined regardless. Do you know what I mean? And I think you can only really commend him for it. Like, this is the type of things that you like to see in footballers, which is, when they're against the odds. When the odds are against them, sorry, like, what can they do and what can they sort of bring to the team, and he's done it, to be fair. So yeah, fair play to him.
Yeah, no, I think playing up front has really got the best out of him. Like, you mentioned how in midfield you kind of couldn't really see what his standout traits were. But I mean, if you watch him in his Arsenal team now playing up front, you know what he's offering to them. That movement in behind, running into the channels, even linking up with the midfield, being someone that they can play up to, play long, win the ball. He's got a good touch. So yeah, no, he's definitely showing his quality, and in front of goal as well. He's putting it together. It was a really good finish against Southampton on the weekend. But I mean, the main man really that we got to talk about with this Arsenal team at the moment is Bukayo Saka, because man, this guy started the season on fire, and I don't know. One thing for me about Saka, I mean, it's interesting. I feel like he doesn't really get the same hype as other guys, the likes of Foden, Palmer, and I don't know why. I think. To be honest, I don't know why, because I mean, when I watch him, I mean, he's quality, like, for Arsenal, and week in, week out, like, he's easily one of the most consistent performers in the Premier League. Like, you watch Arsenal play, Saka's dropping a minimum 7 out of 10 in my opinion, and that's even without GA. He's playing on the right, and he's always getting double teamed, and he still manages to find a way regardless. And I think with Ødegaard being out of the team due to injury so far, he's really kind of picked up that creative burden. We've seen, it's 7 assists so far in the Premier League already. And his assist from Martinelli on the weekend was ridiculous. Just cutting inside that ball to the back post. I mean, Martinelli had nothing other to do but put in the net, like he was literally on a platform. So yeah, I don't know. I think Saka's got to get a bit more respect, man. I mean, comfortably for me, he's world class.
Shouldn't be a debate, man.
Yeah, no, one of the best in his position easily, and man, I don't know. I think the boy needs a bit more shine. What are your thoughts on Saka?
For sure, bro. I was even saying to someone today, but back in after Arsenal had that season where they bottled at the end and finished 5th. That season, that summer, I wanted us to sign Saka. I wanted Saka to be our marquee sign. I wanted to send the bid, but obviously that same summer he got the contract extension. Yeah. And he hasn't really looked back since then, so that's kind of off the table now. But now Saka's amazing, bro. Like, he's been world class for years as well. This is the thing that it also annoys me, and I tweeted it earlier this week. It's like, I feel like with players, this reputation stuff goes too far. Like, sometimes you just have to watch football, bro. Like, if you look at a player and he's good, like, he's good.
Yeah.
Like, there doesn't have to be this whole thing of, has he played for 4 years in the Premier League against tough opposition and scored X amount of goals? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, sometimes if you watch a player and you see what he's doing, and he's doing it consistently, like, it doesn't even have to be for a set number of years, just is he doing it, like, very consistently, then, I mean, like, yeah, they're great, innit? Do you know what I mean? There shouldn't have to be, like, this set sort of, like, thing of, you have to do X, Y, Z, you have to win this Champions League trophy or this Premier League trophy or whatever. Like, it should just be, if you're good, bro. Like, do you know what I mean? And everyone sort of has an understanding in terms of, like, depth of, like, how good players are. Like, people have an understanding of, let's say, for example, James Maddison and Yuri Tielemans and let's say Harvey Elliott, right? These are all players that people will have their own opinions on how highly they rate them, and that's okay. Like, you can have your own opinions, but it's like, you're not gonna be silly and say that you know, if Harvey Elliott wins the Champions League, he's now better than Cole Palmer, for example.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to do things like that. But everyone can have their opinions on players, but I feel like with Saka, you know, there's a lot of reasons why, like with Saka, like, you know, obviously racial aspect, 100%.
Okay, yeah, 100%.
Maybe he's not the flashiest player, so people want to see more flicks and tricks like you see from someone like Ousmane Dembele. But like, there's the way that people like to discredit him, it doesn't really make sense. Like, there's things that make sense, like preferences in players. You can say, I think this player is better than Saka or whatever. But the way that people like to act like he's not good at all, or like completely remove his name from like debates and arguments, like, to me it doesn't make sense, man. Like, we all have eyes, we all have opinions, sure, but like, come on, bro. Like, there's to me at some point there is, like, we have to draw a line at some point. You know what I mean? Yeah, no,
I mean, I think on the kind of comment that you said about like players' levels and stuff, I mean, we can see like a live example of that this season is Marco Elise, like moving from Crystal Palace to Bayern Munich. With what he was doing last season at Palace, like, you could see that this was a very good player, but nobody was giving him world-class shouts. You know, he was nowhere near the France team at that point. He moved to Bayern Munich. He's played less than 10 games there in all competitions, and all of a sudden he's a world-class winger, and he's starting for France. He's starting for France today. But like, why not give him that props, that shine when he was at Palace, when he was doing the exact same things? He's just doing it now with better players, so of course he's gonna look better. But I mean, it's roughly the same thing that he was doing at Palace. But I mean, speaking of Bayern, quickly move on to their game against Frankfurt, 3-3 in the Bundesliga. It was an interesting game. I mean, I think some of the comments that we made about Company last week kind of rang true. You know, Frankfurt kind of sat deep, organised like a 4-4-2 deep block, and Bayern really struggled to kind of create anything clear cut. I think they took the lead in that game through a set piece. Frankfurt hit back through a counter, and then they went 2-1 up through a set piece again.
Both centre backs.
So I mean, two goals, and of course credit, you've got to put the ball in the back of the net, but you know, from set pieces, it's still not really kind of figuring out ways to break down those low blocks and create chances. You know, I don't know, when you watch them at times, it just seems a bit static. I don't know. I think maybe Thomas Müller started this game. I think maybe Company's reason for starting him in the 10 this week was because of his off the ball movement and some of the things he can kind of do that the likes of Musiala or Elise when he's playing the 10 can't. Those are two players that are more ball to feet type of guys. They want to get on the ball, drop deeper, whereas Thomas Müller, someone that likes to make runs in behind, stretch the last line, and also come deep to the ball at times. But I don't know. I still think they struggled in this game. Frankfurt did really well. I have to give credit to them. Really efficient on the counters. Umar Mamouche, that's his name? Yeah. Umar Mamouche. Baller. This season he's been going crazy. I think it's 8 goals already in the Bundesliga so far. Him and Ekitike. I think Ekitike. Yeah. Them two have been forming a crazy partnership up front. It's nice to see Ekitike kind of doing well after a spell at PSG that wasn't too great for him. But yeah, what do you make of this game?
Yeah, it was kind of, as you said, it was kind of the things you talked about last week. Like, I think part of it's to do with personnel. Like, Kane, I guess, see, this is one thing is, I don't know. I used to be a really big Kane fan, which is so funny.
You did, I remember. I remember the Kane era.
Yeah, I loved Kane, man. I loved him, but I don't know. I feel like there's clear signs he's on the decline, but like, still, I don't know. I feel like in some games you need to create certain. There's certain not like a system player, right? But there's certain things that you need to create certain dynamics for him to shine. Yeah. Because physically, he's just not at a level anymore with like where he was maybe 2 seasons ago. Yeah. Like I think it's such a crazy like decline. Like physically, he doesn't really do any of the stuff he used to. I feel like he can't really dominate the box or like dominate defenders or occupy defenders for that matter. Like the same way that he used to in the box. Now I feel like a lot of his best qualities you're gonna find is in transition, like let's say halfway line, drop ski, receives the ball, plays it in behind to one of the wingers. I feel
Yeah.
like there you're gonna find a lot of joy, and they have the wingers for that. You know, Elise can make those runs. Nabry can make those runs.
Coleman, yeah.
Coleman, you know, they have they have a lot of players that can do that. But I feel like, I don't know, it kind of clashes a bit with the way that Company plans to play, in my opinion. I don't know whether Company's made comments about it or not. He probably hasn't, but I feel like it kind of clashes. And then also to if you're gonna kind of want to mitigate that, in theory, Muller has the off-ball movement and the box crashing and the eye for goal that you need, but also Muller, I just think it's kind of washed. Like I think at this stage, like he's not going to give you the same. So I think it is kind of a personnel issue now where you have to find a player that can kind of do what they want Muller to do, but also has a bit more about him in tight spaces and a bit more physicality, which is kind of tough. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean Thomas Muller is a rare breed of player, to be honest.
Like I don't know, you're not gonna find a player like him very easily. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's partly a personnel thing with them just not having the players they need. I think Elise first half could have been a bit better, but overall I think he was fine. But also in terms of tactically, like if you can't break down a low block against Frankfurt, like no disrespect to Frankfurt or whatever, but like this is the type of thing you need to be able to do if you're gonna really want to go all the way in the Champions League, because you know in the Champions League you're gonna come up against a Man City. You're going to come up against Real Madrid. You're going to come against Arsenal, probably Liverpool too. And these teams have better players and better defenders, and they will probably punish you. You know what I mean? Shout out to Omar Mamouche. He did definitely punish them. There was a few times I think the ball got played in on the counter and he made them pay. Like every time he got the ball, like I was thinking, like, is this where he's going to score? Is he going to do? And he just dispatches it. Like he's so...
It's rude,
like,
you know.
Yeah, like it's bro, he just one on the keeper just slots it. I'm like, like it's crazy. Not gonna lie. Shout out to him. I feel like he could probably get a move in summer.
Yeah, he's still 25, so
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think I watched him before. I don't know if it was the Olympics that he was at, or if it was something else before. But
maybe I think he would have been at Olympics.
He's Egyptian, isn't it?
Yeah.
I watched him for Egypt, either at the Olympics or something else before that, and he impressed me there as well. So. Yeah, fair play to him, man. Really put himself on the map. And Ekitike, this is my first game watching him since he's left PSG, actually. So, yeah, I was impressed. Not gonna lie, I like what I saw. That does feel like your type of player, like a Man United, you know, Shaq type of player. But obviously, you guys got Xerxes. He's got the same kind of mold.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, both of them have been killing it. So I know you never know. End of the season, it could be off for moves. But let's move on to Man City women. Huge result the other night against Barcelona, 2-0 in the Champions League. Talk to me, bro. How big is this result?
Huge result, bro. I can't lie, bro. I was getting emotional, you know. I can't lie. That's for me. That's like I've never felt so much joy from a game. Like the only time I'd say I was that happy is probably the Arsenal 4-1 for the men's team.
Yeah.
Where KDD scored that long shot, and then Real Madrid at the Bernabeu in the treble season as well, when we just demolished them. Those two games are the same amount of joy that I felt. Because, bro, I can't lie, this season I've been so like scared with the out of possession approach, and like we played against Brighton. Brighton were picking us apart. We played against who was it? Was it West Ham? I think it was West Ham. Like we're playing against team Arsenal as well. Arsenal destroyed us like in transitions and stuff. Like every time. I've hated the structure. That's like my main concern is that I don't like this out possession approach. We played them, I think in like the first minute they hit the post. From then on, they didn't have a sniff. Like we were on them. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, bro. Like they have 2 Ballon d'Or winners. Gonna be a third probably in a few weeks. They have Bonmati, who's the best player in the world. They have Putellas playing off the left. Eva Payot out front. Kylan Graham-Hampson, who's probably gonna win the Ballon d'Or. Patrick Guijarro in midfield, Kira Walsh, ex-Man City, great player. They have so many players. I think they started Leon as well, Mappy Leon. Like they have so many, like all across the pitch, there was so many crazy matchups, and I don't know. I just didn't expect us. I was actually kind of scared. Like I really thought, like this is gonna be like a serious like 3-0. Like we're not gonna get nothing out of this. We pressed them so, bro. I know for sure Barca fans are opening their window at home, bro. we pressed them, bro. Like
suffocating them.
It was insane. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I have to give props where it's due. The whole team I thought played well. Everyone played well. Everyone did their part. Especially, I want to shout out Naomi Lazelle. So she just signed this summer from Bristol City, right? They just got relegated.
Yeah.
And she's a centre back, but this is her third start for us this season. And she played right back against Putellas, former Ballon d'Or winner, one of the greats.
Match,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kept her silent the whole game, like the entire game, bro. For a centre back to play right back and do that against one of the most skillful players in the world, like I don't know, especially at 20 years old, like this is, you know, last season she was getting relegated from the top division, and now it's like Champions League,
silencing the Ballon d'Or winner.
Yeah, against the best team in the world basically in Europe last season in Barca, the champions, and you keep their players under wrap like that. Got to shout out Kasper as well, right back, played left back, done. You know, she's not, in my opinion, she's not like world class or anything, but she done her job. Played against Graham Hansen and kept her quiet the whole game. Do you know what I mean? Yamashita's our new goalkeeper signing as well. She was great. Jess Park at the weekend, she didn't play because she had a knock, so everyone's a bit concerned. Came today, played her heart out, bro. Like, yo, I guess. Listen, she gave Bonmati a front row view as to what the future of football is. She said, it's my time now, bro. Like, honestly, it's genuinely insane. I can't lie. Shout out to everyone, man. Bunny Shaw, obviously great performance. A hold-up player as well. She got a lot of criticism, you know, for people saying, because she's big and she's kind of like strong. She gets a lot of that criticism of the same type of thing you see Haaland get of, like, just a poacher, just running behind, blah, blah, blah. But hold-up play was ridiculous this game, bro. Like, she looked like R9 up there, honestly. But yeah, overall, just a fantastic performance, man. Lauren Hamp doing what she does as usual. Mary Fowler, great as usual. Like, I literally can't have any complaints. We kept all their best players silent, and it honestly, in the first half, I thought they were going to make us pay because we had probably 3 or 4 chances we should have scored before we even got our first one. Yeah. And yeah, honestly, I'm glad, man. We got what we deserved from that game for sure.
Nah, shout out the City women for sure. Quickly before we end off the show, gonna have a bit of a segment where we're gonna talk about some of our favorite players in Europe right now, some players that we're investing stocks into for this season.
Yep.
I'm gonna go first with mine. Going to Ligue 1 for this one. Ryan Cherki of Lyon, one of my favorite players in the game right now. I mean, for the last couple of seasons, I think he was the youngest player to make an appearance in Champions League knockout stages a couple years ago during the COVID season for Lyon, back when they were still making Champions League knockout stages. And yeah, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know what he's about, this is a real throwback, like maverick type player. I'd say, I mean, his purest position is that number 10, like proper dribbler, flary. He's like French Algerian. He's got the Algerian flair, you know, those ballers there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. 2-footed as well. And the technique, the ability, the skills on this kid is ridiculous. I mean, one of his performances recently against Rangers, I implore you guys to go back and look at that game, because, I mean, he was on a different level, to be honest, out there. They didn't know what to do with him. And recently as well, last weekend against Nantes, he put in another good performance. He was close to leaving this summer as well to Fulham. I seen that they were close to signing for something like 5 million, which is dirt cheap. Yeah. But I think he signed a new deal with Lyon, but it's one of those ones that's kind of got things in place for him to leave this season if all goes well. So I mean, I don't know. I think someone to definitely keep an eye on. I think come the end of this season, he could be making a move to another big team in Europe. But yeah, who do you have for us?
For me, it has to be my boy, man, Francisco Conceição. I don't know if I mentioned him last week or the week before.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, has to be my boy. Obviously, he got goal and assist against Leipzig the other week in Champions League.
Yeah.
Scored as well before that in Syria. But I feel like this is going to be his real sort of, not necessarily breakout, because he's been quite known, but still it's going to be like his proper, he's going to stamp his name on that Juve team sheet this season, I feel like, and he's really going to make a name for himself around Europe as well. I feel like he's still got a bit of development, and he's still got a bit more he can do, but you know, he's going to do it this season in my opinion. Everything I've seen so far has been promising in my opinion. So yeah, that's going to be my boy for this season. I'm definitely going to be tuning into his games and making sure that he's up to standard. But yeah, man, that's I think in terms of Shirky, right? I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the sort of criticism, the laziness?
I don't. He's just got that kind of that languid style. I don't know, that you see some players have. I don't think it's necessarily laziness. I feel like that just is kind of how he plays the game. I think what doesn't help him is that, I mean, he's kind of got a lack of physicality in terms of like running power, acceleration. Doesn't really have that burst. So I think that kind of hampers his game a little bit. But he is quite strong. He can hold off players in the midfield. Sure. So, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't say he's lazy. I would just kind of say that, yeah, he's a bit languid in how he does it. But I mean, that's how the old school number 10s be. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure.
That's how I like him.
Yeah.
But yeah, for this week, that's all we have. We have time for. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys get your podcasts. Follow us on socials, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. Until next week.
Hey.
Rex Radio events in conjunction with KTS Promotions, Forward Promotions, and LGR Promotions